Hey there, and welcome to Ruck Up Buttercup, the podcast that's all about real talk for military spouses and families. I'm Sabrina, and we're so glad you're here.
And I'm Ashley, and together we dive into the ups, the downs, and everything in between that comes with military life. From deployment tips to marriage conversations to PCS chaos, finding your identity and owning it, nothing is off limits.
And I'm Lara. Whether you're folding uniforms, packing boxes, managing the home front, solo, or just trying to make it through another long week, you're in the right place. Here on Ruck Up Buttercup, we share real stories, honest conversation, and practical support for military families.
We talk about the hard stuff, the hopeful stuff, and everything in between. Because military life is anything but one size fits all.
This is a space to feel seen, supported, and reminded that you're never alone in this journey.
So lace up those boots, lift your chin, and let's ruck up Buttercup. Military life doesn't define us. We rise in.
You can also hear us on Wreath Across America Radio on Women in Media Wednesdays at 11 p.m. See you there.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Ruck Up Buttercup. We are having a girl chat, so I'm here with Lara and Sabrina, and today's chat is going to be an interesting one, I think. So we are going to dive deep into some of the craziness that happens into military life, whether that's PS chaos, housing issues, just really crazy experience that you may have experienced on your journey. We do want to say that this is not something that we are trying to glorify. Like, we want to make sure that you guys know that this is not the case for every single person, even if something crazy happens. But we are a community from different cultures and different religions and regions and things like that. So it's safe to say that that comes with the caveat of crazy things are going to happen. And you're going to see some of the weirdest and most oddball things. But so we're going to read some Reddits/ posts that we have seen recently and kind of discuss them and kind of give you guys recommendations. So like, if this happens to you, these are the tips and tricks of what you could do to either get a solution or make sure that you're not alone and what happened to you is either A, not okay, or B, you have the steps to make sure that it won't happen to somebody else. So we're going to dive in. Let's start off with like a PCS one. So Lara actually has a really interesting one, and that actually happened to her. So we're going to let her share that story, and then we'll give you guys some tips and tricks on like how to make sure crazy things don't happen.
Okay, so when we PCS to Germany, you don't have a choice. You have to use, the military movers. So I was moving a motorcycle. That doesn't go like normal cars do. You don't drop it off at a port. It goes in your household goods. And they're supposed to strap it down like when the people at Fort Stewart did it. There were probably like 6 different tie down straps to hold my motorcycle in place, to include the ones that go on the handlebars, done properly. Mm-hmm. Fast forward to getting to Germany, and the truck pulls up, and I have my video camera on because I had heard all the horror stories of, just stuff. Luckily, it was in its own box, by itself. So at least stuff couldn't fall on it. They're opening it up, and sure enough, my motorcycle had laid itself down on its side, which isn't a great thing anyway. It was a CBR 1000, so it's not a small bike. And yeah, they were like, oh, you can't record this. You can't take pictures of it. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to. And because I'm going to claim all of it in damages because, the fairings were all scratched up. And then, they were trying to say that it was my fault that I opened the box, and I'm like, yep, I know how to open a crate. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, and I think so, like, number one tip and advice for any time you're moving and PCSing, take pictures.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure you have a running list of VIN numbers, appliance numbers. If you have things, collectibles like books behind me, like have a list of all the books and conditions and additions. It's a lot of work, but if you keep a running tab of all those things, you'll have those. And we've PCS so many times. I think like between all of us, there's over 30 PCSs between us. It's one of those things where you have to have a knowledge of the military moving community and how that shifts and changes so many times that the company that you're working with now could be phenomenal, but the next one you're gonna have awful. And so I've always been one of those people where like I take photos right before they like the morning of I'm going around, I'm taking pictures so that it's time stamped and be like, okay, this is the condition that it was in. There was no rips.
Hide your trash can.
Yeah. And especially those high-end value items, make sure that they mark it as high value item and put the amount on it and make sure they do that. I mean,
and I think as military spouses with kids, it's really hard, but try to supervise the actual packing of things. Like Laura's saying, there's a certain way that motorcycle should have been strapped down.
And it was, they broke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like in those situations, and the TV, making sure they're actually packaging it correctly, or even like following along, because it's really easy as a military spouse with kids to be like, okay, I'm just going to sit back here in the corner and let them do their stuff, because they are all over your house. Usually there's 4 or 5 movers, and it's pure chaos. But in those areas, like in our office in Germany when we were moving out, like Dustin was down there watching that the computers got packed correctly, that the TV got packed correctly, because those things are the ones that if they're not putting foam in there with them, or they're not doing these things, are going to get busted. And they're a lot harder to prove that that's what it was, because you can take a picture of the screen, those pictures beforehand, but sometimes those are really hard to prove, because they're like, oh, well, it looks like it's working, but you can be like, no, but the mechanics inside the computer aren't working. Like, yes, the screen turns on, but how do I prove that the insides aren't working? So being there and watching them pack those things and making sure they're packed correctly, even actually for books, like ensuring.
And if you see them doing something that's not like, okay, if you see them kind of stuffing something in a box that shouldn't be stuffed in a box, that needs to be wrapped, say, hey, can you please wrap this? I mean, like when we moved to Virginia, like this is such a, like, it's not even like that, like big of a deal, but like they packed our air fryer and then they put like something extremely heavy on top of the air fryer and it like dented it and broke it. And so I was just like, why would you pack something like that?
Anyway, because they just do it as fast as possible.
Oh my
gosh.
If
you've never done it, it's like a whirlwind of them just like running around the house. Like we went and checked our clothes this last time, and my entire rack of hats, if you don't know me, I'm a hat girl, but we're just sitting there after they'd already packed them, and I'm like, so you need to,
and make sure you're doing that walkthrough. Like, absolutely, make sure you do that walkthrough. Check all the drawers. Make sure they actually packed everything first and foremost. But there's always things that you can do, like air tags and things like that. We did an air tag on Jeremy's stuff when it went overseas. It stopped working, but I think it was just constantly like it was a brand new air tag. So either A, was a default air tag and it wasn't working, or something happened. But I mean, it made it, but like it stopped tracking at one point. But there's so many amazing like PCS sites where like tips and tricks, like how should I pack like certain items to make sure they get where they want. Just know that if you're a new military spouse and you haven't PCS before, if you pack something and something breaks, they are not liable to refund it. Now, if it gets lost, I think they are. But, like if I go in and pack all my books and I tape it all up and everything like that, if anything's damaged, it won't be their fault.
Yeah, so you can do it like Ash is saying. You can pack it. So like say she wants to wrap everything bubble wrap and it's all in there specifically. Leave it open, and then
that's what I would.
Take it shut, then it is qualified as their packing.
Yeah. So just say, hey, like I wanted these each individually wrapped. Whether you put in like for books, like it's putting in the silicate packets so to help with moisture and things like that. There's so many different things you can do, tips and tricks, but taking photos, like prepping beforehand, like don't wait until the day before, 2 days before you move to make your list and take photos. But if it's a high value item, make sure it's marked. And like they dropped like 3 things off our truck this move, and they were kind of super nonchalant about it. And I was like, you marked that they dropped that, right? And he's like, yep. Jeremy, when we got our stuff, Jeremy sat out there and he was the one that was marking off the number for each box. And I think some companies require the person that's getting the inventory to do that, but I know other companies will just be like, we got this, and I'm like, we didn't get this box is nowhere in this house, like how are you telling me we got this box? And so it's a great way to be like, hey, like they call it the number and you physically mark off the list and what it is. Also make sure that they mark on the box what is on the box. We moved one time and they didn't mark what was in the box, and I was just like I was like, this box is missing, but all it says was kitchen, but it had all of these like really expensive kitchen appliances in it. Well, I can't prove what those kitchen appliances were because they didn't notate those separate different things.
And that's another thing that's a super challenge when you're moving overseas, because those movers are Polish or they're whatever. So
And they
they
put
write it in
whatever
their
they
language.
call it.
Yeah, they label it. So you also you need to know, especially just at least on your high ticket stuff. Like I know because we PCS so often, we don't have much stuff that we really care about. Like we know that if it's lost, we know that that's a possibility. We move all the time. But if you don't move all the time, like say Laura were to move, she doesn't move that often. So her stuff is very like a lot more value with her Legos and all the things where like, yes, please
There
make sure
are
you know
apps
which
for
box
that,
it's in.
correct.
Make sure you know how it's packed, because otherwise you're going to have no idea. Like if I lose a box, oh well, like that's part of our life. But
I mean, and I have a lot of that in my life. Like, you know, I don't really care. I mean, again, it's just stuff. Like, you know, is it going to be a hassle? Absolutely. Like to have to go in and replace a lot of these things, it would be a big deal. But, you know, I always kind of be like, okay, I mean, at least my stuff, like in the entire like crate didn't fall off in the ocean or caught fire in a warehouse. So just, you know, there's a lot of things that happen with it. If you don't want to deal with that, do a Diddy move. Like, but
Or
if you know you're going to do
sell
that,
what you don't want.
yeah, sell what you don't want,
get there.
and then repurchase it at the installation. But you know, if you know you're going to do a Diddy move, start putting money aside so that way you can cover those costs without it being a financial strain on you. And then once you get your reimbursement, then you can put it back in your savings account or whatever the case may be. But don't make that last minute decision of doing a Diddy move because it's not cheap. It's
so
really
much work.
expensive.
You always think it's going to be easy, and it's just not.
It's not. I mean, you can find cheap ways to do it. You can start collecting boxes and getting boxes from people as they're moving in and stuff like that. But like, you know, if you're doing anything like, you know, like a pod, I mean, those are several $1,000s. Like you have to understand that yes, you'll get reimbursement, but you know, again, it's the military. Like when will you get that reimbursement? You do not know.
Yeah, I can say because we technically moved from North Carolina to Arizona last year. And even those U-Hauls, what you think is going to be that cost is so much more by the time you get there, because there's other fees that are added on that you're not really expecting. And it's thousands of dollars. So like even that where you're like, oh, I'll just do it myself is not, it's still so much work. It's so much work.
And so have a plan. Like I think that's the biggest thing is have a plan on which route you're going to go and then plan for that. Like you guys, we know we move every 2 to 3 years, maybe 4. You know you are going to have a PCS at some point. Have that plan of, are we doing a Diddy? Are we doing a partial Diddy? What does that look like? And how can you do that? And then if you're having the military move you, then start those lists. Like I keep a running list of my books in a book app where I can download the thing and I just scan my book and it's in. Like, but that's just so one, I know like the books I have and I can say, hey, like this is a first edition book. This is the market value for this book right now. Like you might want to actually take care of it. Or like my husband's guns or the instruments and all those things, like those all are going to come into play. And keep your TV boxes, things like that. So you can make sure that they're packed correctly.
And like if you are a collector, say, you know, Ashley has an app for the books. There is one for Lego. It's called Brick Economy. There's one for Funko Pops. You can either use HobbyDB or you can use Funko themselves. They have lists and it will show the market value, the replacement value, probably what you paid for it. But HobbyDB does all sorts of things. So like Fortnite toys that are made, you know, the Star Wars collectible figures and stuff, the helmets, those are all on HobbyDB. So it's all in one spot instead of, you know, multiple. But I highly suggest getting, if you're military or even if you're not, but because insurance companies say something does happen to your house, you have absolute proof that, hey, this is what the list of what I have.
Yeah. And that's a good point too, because as you think about it, like, I'm like, I mean, yeah, that's like,
we've had 2 houses
and
burned down in our
embarrassing amount of like money behind me, guys. And some of these are obviously like special editions, first editions. You know, some of these first editions are like market value right now are like $600 to $1,000, and that's a good point to put things like this on your insurance, whether it's renters or homeowners insurance. Yeah, that's a good point too. That's a good point to make. And having those running lists and having those like just made ahead of time will help make it a little bit easier. And then another tip, something that I didn't know, like I thought they just automatically would notate this, but if you have antique furniture and you say that this is an antique, whatever the case may be, and I don't know if this is every if this is just across the board or if this was just the moving company that I dealt with, but they would not notate that it was a high value. And it must have been that company, because this last company had no problem with me telling them that this was a high value item. Like, this would cost a lot of money if you lost it or broke it. Where one company told me, like, they would only note it if it was high value if I had proof that it was a high value item. Like, if I had, for my antiques, I had them appraised and had the appraisal forms to go with it. And I'm like, I haven't done that, but I know that this is extremely expensive furniture. We've done the research, but I haven't had it appraised. And so they wouldn't notate that.
So that is another good thing to consider, because again, with insurance, we talk about that. I think that's another story Ashley has coming up, is like moving into on-post housing and what is actually truly happening versus what the housing people will say is happening.
I mean, we can dive into that, because I feel like I'm not even going to read like a specific one, because I feel like if you go on any military spouse page, any military page in general, you're going to see issues about mold and issues,
or have friends who've had issues,
or how, the house is falling apart, things like that. And yeah, guys, it's going to happen. I'm not going to ever have military housings back, because I do think that they do a very, very poor job. And even in the barracks, like, a very poor job of keeping that up. But I want to notate one thing about that is, if you are moving in a house every 2 to 3 years, like if you have people coming and going, banging on the walls, changing the temperature, spills and pets and things like that, like, it changes the like, I don't want to say the structure of the environment, but it causes a lot of wear and tear when you're constantly moving in and out. Where if you just keep your things in one place for a very long time, your walls and your floor and your everything can stay nice for a longer period of time. So when things are constantly going through a big rotation, there's more likely to have more things. Now, on top of that, though, I also think, like, if you're a military family, take care of the home you're living in. Just because it's not going to be long term, take care of the home you're living in. Treat it as like this is your forever home, and that you don't want to have to pay for the things that are going to have to break.
Like, I'm on Library Talk, and the librarians talk about it. Like, why do we stop learning that when you borrow something, you should treat it like a treasure? Because you're borrowing someone's thing. The house is on post. You're borrowing them. Like, you're not. It's not your house.
Even just living off post, like, you can still have these same issues. And it comes with, like, age of things. Like, obviously, like, some of these military housing that our families are living in are ancient, y'all. Like, they've been around
World War II level.
Like, they're
ancient. I lived in a World War II.
Yeah. And they're not updated. They haven't been modified. They haven't had new windows put in since they were built. They haven't had new duct and plumbing and things like that. So if you choose, my thing is if you choose to live into military housing, it comes with the caveat of you are going to be expecting not the best housing. I'm not saying that there aren't great housing, because there are some really great housings, but you're going to go in with the mindset of, like, yes, this is the case. Now, the ways that the housing offices, Corvus and all that handle, mold and things that blow my mind.
Yeah, I think mold is like one of the biggest, craziest things, because that's one that's not excusable. Like, that's not from people moving in and out. That is literally, if it's an issue, it needs to be addressed immediately.
Well, and if it's an issue, it's not going to go away unless you actually remove, like, everything. Mm-hmm. It's going to continue to see, just painting over it. It's not going to fix it. It's going to continue to see through and do all the different things. And so, first off, advocate for yourself. Like, don't let anyone tell you otherwise, because we see that all the time. Like, they said it's just dust, or it's just mildew. Mildew is still mold, y'all. Like, it's still something that should not be where it is, and it needs to, like, there needs to be something taken care of. It may come down where you need to purchase humidifiers, things like that, which again is another expense for military families that they don't need. Those are not cheap. But continue to advocate for yourself, because I think if anything you get from this episode is to advocate for yourself. Don't let anyone make you feel less than what you are. Don't let you feel less because you're a new military spouse and you don't know how things are operating. You are still a civilian as a military spouse. And yeah, your spouse may get yelled at by their first sergeant or something because you may be causing problems for someone else and they're letting that command know. But if your health and your livelihood is being affected so drastically, do not let that stop you.
Everything.
And document it. Make sure you're documented. And when we're saying document, like make sure there is a paper trail. Make sure you are sending emails or you are time stamping, taking a photo that I handed this off at this time. Make sure it has timestamp on your photos, like document it, because again, if you're not getting anywhere, we haven't said this yet. We talked about this before we started the podcast, but if you're not getting anywhere at that level of that first contact, whether it's the housing office, well, if the housing office is being a tyrant, go up to garrison command, go to your command. If they're not helping, go up, keep going up the levels until you find someone who's going to listen and be like, I hear you and we are going to get this solved. Because you're going to have those people. You're going to have those bad apples. We have them. You're going to have them. And no matter whether it's military life or civilian life, you're going to have those people who are going to be like, I think I'm just going to choose to make this person's day a living nightmare. And why? No reason why. But don't let that person be like, well, I tried. No, keep going. And then if you can't get any help at that installation, go higher. Go to your representatives and go higher up. Send emails, because one, they don't want this to get out to like the news and stuff like that, because again, it just kind of paints a picture for a negative
housing. I mean, it's been in the news. We all know that.
And we all know it. And, you know, you'll find people who are going to be willing to work with you and things like that. So just know that if you live on military housing or even in a off-post like rental, if you are dealing with something, don't let someone say, I can't do this. And off-post housing, like if your landlord won't fix something that is affecting your health, you can break your lease legally. If they are not willing to make those changes, it's going to depend on each state, but make sure just look at the state, find that answer and be like, okay, hey, like per this code, because you've refused to fix this. And I have bills from my doctor and things like this, and it's affecting and it's stating that there's mold and this is evidence of mold. I've done a test. I brought someone in to do a test. You can break your lease. Yes, it's a hassle to move and things like that, but like you guys, you have to make that choice for your family.
Well, and especially when it comes to mold, it's so serious. Like,
yeah.
And if you're even having symptoms of being like sick, then you need to be looking around and figuring out where that's coming from. Because if you're getting something where your doctor's like, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you've been sick for months.
Check for mold.
Because we have a friend who did that at Bragg, right? And she had just moved into what was considered pretty new housing. Mm-hmm. And they were like, oh, well, we put down new carpet and stuff. And I found out that they put down new carpet to cover the mold that was on the floor.
Yeah, but you know,
had to pull it all out.
If they don't treat it, or if they just put new carpet but they don't change the pad, it's not going to go anywhere. And you know, they're trying to get a turnaround, at least for on post. That turnaround is quick. Like they're trying to get people in and out as quick as possible so they can get a new family in. Because, you know, I guess that's the thing to say, like, you know, don't complain that there's a long wait. Like if you want good housing, guys, like don't complain that there's months and months long wait to get on post housing.
You want it clean. Yeah,
you want it to be clean and safe for your family. But if your guys are wanting them to do it quickly, they're going to make those shortcuts, which is what they've been doing for forever.
As anybody who's ever worked for the government, whenever you hear it's like it's government standard, you're like, oh, that actually means worse than like yeah. I think it's funny because civilians are always like, oh, it's a government issued thing, and you're like, yeah, I wouldn't trust that idea.
Have the other one? I mean, how well did those 3M earplugs do for us, you know?
Right? They literally pick the cheapest bid. So when it comes to cleaning and redoing apartments, it's the cheapest bid. Like, yeah.
And the next biggest thing besides the mold is if you're stationed anywhere in the South, your air conditioner. Take care of it. You have a filter. You need to change it.
You need to be treating the home as if this is your home, and if something breaks, you're paying for it. Because filters, change those filters. One, it'll help with air quality, but why is my
you can't survive in the South without an air conditioner?
Right. I mean, you've lived in the house for 2 years and you've never changed the air filter. Like,
so good.
Maybe.
Right.
Maybe it's maybe. But I also feel like some people just don't know what to do. You know, as a first time living, you know, maybe they lived with their parents the whole time and they moved into an apartment. And then now they're living in a house, and that's not something they don't know what to do.
Sometimes life gets busy. I know we've seen changes once in a while because, you're like, oh, wow, that was like 2 months ago. We should have done that.
I haven't said it. I'm the worst at changing my filter. So what we did was we actually have them on auto renewal on Amazon. So when they show up, it's my I got to go change those because that's when I need to be changing
Our new
them.
rental company here sends us, we are required to send pictures, or they like hold the old and the new next to each other, put it up in the thing. Every 6 months they send that to us. We just have to redo it.
I lived in a house that did that too. And I was like, at first I was like, this is annoying. But I was like, oh, I mean, I can
kind of
see that
annoying.
because then I can show them like I did change this. So it's not my fault that
So if the air conditioner goes out or anything, you're covered for that.
You're covered. So kind of going on the topic of advocating for yourself. So I made a post recently on a Facebook group asking just kind of for some unhinged stories that you've experienced. And one of the ones came up, I think is fairly common, but it's not common. I know that doesn't make any sense, but this does happen. And again, it's all about advocating. And I think we see this mostly with brand new baby spouses. And I know I experienced this a little bit, or I know that we had something like this happen. So I'm going to read it first and then we can kind of discuss it. So when I was a baby, 18, my husband's NCOs made him bring me in for a meeting before they would allow us to get married. First off,
that's not a thing.
Get married. That's not a thing. Not a thing at all. I think people will hear, like, during basic training, like they try to break, like they're breaking you down during basic. Like I know when Jeremy went through basic, they were like, your girlfriend's at home cheating and she's, blah, blah, blah. You guys shouldn't get married, things like that. And it played a mental struggle with him for a while. But, again, a strong relationship's going to make it through. So she continues and says, they talked to us together and then separate. They later said it was to make sure I wasn't using him. Anyways, we didn't know what wasn't allowed until after we got married. Then they proceeded to do home inspections every month. Mind you, we rented an apartment off post and never had anything reported. One time they came and our fridge was almost empty, not because we couldn't afford food, but because we were going out of town for 3 weeks and didn't want anything to spoil. So they wrote him up for being bad at managing money and were harassed for a year. Anyways, that was 15 years ago, and I had learned to grow up and speak for myself after that. I won't read the next sentence because there's some inappropriate words, but anyways, their marriage has failed and we are going strong still. Okay, first and foremost, you have rights. Yes, when you live in military housing or if there's issues, your command does have authorization to come into the home and do checks. That is something that happens in the military, and Laura might be able to touch on that a little bit more.
Certain criteria for it, and trust me, it's not just
we want to.
Oh, we're gonna show up,
right? No. Right. There has to be criteria. Like there's been a complaint. There's
I mean, we've had one home inspection
at work.
17 years we've had one home inspection, and it happened because there was a girl who was wanting to start drama with us, and she reported and was like, "Oh, her kids are always in nasty diapers. Their house is filthy." And they only gave me 24 hours. So there was no way I could clean my house, right? So they came and they were like, your house is cleaner than most people's houses I've ever seen. They're like, this is obviously like a report. So that shit does happen. They do come in and there are times when that will happen. But don't that was just fully for drama.
Jeremy's been in for 18 years and we've never had an inspection. Now, I have some crazy stories of inspections that Jeremy has done that blow my mind. He had one, this person was getting out of the service, he was getting kicked out. But then there was complaints about he had 3 hours left to get his signatures before he was kicked off installation and stuff. And they show up to his house, movers hadn't been there. There was 30 bags of trash just sitting in the living room, a jar of mayonnaise, dog poop all over the place. And Jeremy was just he's like, I don't even have words. And I'm like, he's
sometimes some people should have inspections. There's some things where you're like, what's happening with these people? But
especially if you live on installation, you 100%. Even in a rental, if you rent a home, your property manager has the authorization to come and do a check
on their property to make sure it's
on their property. So same thing with the military installation. They have the authority to do that. Now, going back to the whole thing about them having a talk and separating them, that's just really, really, really poor leadership. And that person, has had a ton of complaints and is probably going nowhere in life and things like that. Unfortunately, you're going to have bad leadership.
Are there people that go off post and marry questionable people over
yes.
weekends? Absolutely.
I've 100% know someone who married someone so that person can get insurance and he can get BH. Like, it happens.
Oh,
Is that
all the time.
legal? No. But, you know, at
But
the end of
does
the day,
your command get to help you make that decision? Like, really though?
No.
No.
I mean, I've been with my husband since I was 17. We were both 17. So we both kind of started dating right when we turned 18. And, you know, statistics show that, you know, yes, military marriages are typically going to not last. But that's because we have a lot of stressors,
Well,
and
it's
there's
all
a
our
lot
freedom
of
to make that choice. We
but
get
that
to
doesn't mean
decide
that's
if we
going to
want
happen to
to.
everybody. I mean, most people I know who are still long-term relationships are high school sweethearts, or people who've only known each other for 2 months. Like, the amount of friends that I have who've been married for so long, who have only known their spouse for a very short amount of time, and they're like going strong and they're doing great and they have great communication. I mean, again, communication, we preach this on the podcast, is so unbelievably important. But like, when things like this happen where you are feeling like attacked, and or you have someone who, especially if you're a spouse and someone's doing this to you, go talk to the I say go talk to the FRG leader, but go talk to don't talk to your company as FRG leader, because if it's the person who's doing these things. So if it's the person whose spouse is doing these things to your service member, go up. There's always a battalion level a spouse that you can connect with, or the FARSA, or whatever it is for your branch, or go to your chaplain. Like, a great person to go to is a chaplain for, like, hey, this happened to us and we don't feel like this is okay.
And this is a good question where you could easily put it into a spouses group, because most spouses would be like, what? I've never heard of that. And they would be like, I don't think that's right.
And if you don't want your business out, because I'm a firm believer that I don't think you need to air everything out in the spouse groups. But if you are looking for a recommendation, like, hey, I had an incident that happened and I would just like, it dealt with command. It left me feeling like this is not okay. I need to speak to somebody, but I don't want to speak to someone in the direct command. Who can I talk to? And get that information there? Because, like, if I saw someone posting something about my husband's unit and that they had experienced that, I would be the first to be like, what the HWH is happening? Like, that's not okay. Like, why are we, like, one, you're sending this soldier and his spouse up for a career of mistrust and not thinking that they can trust their NCOs and things like that. Also, I'm just going to say that there's one side to everything. Like, I'm kind of like, okay, was a service member, you know, kind of causing issues in another avenue? And they're like, is this something, not saying that pulling them into a room is okay. That's never okay. But, you know, I see stories all the time that spouses are posting saying, like, you know, my husband's doing this, this, and this. And I'm sitting there going, there's no way that they would be.
Some of it could definitely be like he had previous things. Like, he was in a previous marriage where it landed where they were dealing with situations with him. So they want to make sure that she's aware.
He's supposed to be doing at work and he's in trouble. And then, like, he's not telling you the truth. Like, we see that all the time. Service members don't tell their spouses everything. Like, I went through a period of time where my husband wouldn't tell me things. And I'm like, if you do not start sharing information and I find it out from another person, we are going to fight. Like, we are going to go into, like, the boxing ring, because I'm like, this is not okay. Like, I should know this information. Or why are you not telling me you're going to the field or anything like that? But there's so many spouses who I've seen who have had their spouses say, oh, they're just on my case. Like, they're always, like, mean to me. But then come to find out, okay, well, he's flagged because he did X, Y, and Z, and there's proof of it. Okay, well, he's getting treated this way because he's broken conduct and he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. So there's always
there's two sides to every story, and then there's a screenshot.
Have you guys seen the news article about the American who was, like, tackled by MPs in Japan this week? Okay, so
was it this week? I thought it was a couple weeks ago.
It might have been last week. I just saw that it just popped up for me today, and so I don't know if they're just still like talking about it. But, you know, again, you're seeing a portion of a story. Okay, yes, that clip shows him just standing there and then getting body slammed. But it doesn't show, okay, he didn't show his ID when requested, and it is required by law in Japan that if you are asked to show your ID, you have to show it. He didn't do it. But then, like, what caused him to go that far? Now, granted, yes, there are going to be assholes out there who are going to just do whatever they want to do. But there's always more to a story. And so make sure that you are asking questions. My sister was the worst at this, guys. Her ex-husband was a liar, like lied through his teeth about everything. I think he just did it out of spite. Like he just couldn't help himself. And she grew up military and was just like, yeah, he said this. And I'm like, Brittany, think about that really hard. Not even hard. Just think about that. Like, what about that makes any sense? Like, you should know that this is not true. That, you know, there's no way that he's telling you that he's got this award and things like that, but then he's also being like demoted. Like, there's things that aren't connecting. You have to ask questions and advocate for yourself. Like, if you don't feel like you're getting the answers you need, find the next person and see if they can help you. I think that's kind of like, you know, unfortunate that we have to do that in aspects, because we shouldn't have to work so hard to find answers or to get the support that we need. But it is unfortunately what we have to deal with in today's times.
And I'd love to say that changes once you get out, but
it's not.
when dealing with the VA,
I don't think it's any different.
Somebody doesn't tell you, you're not going to know about it.
Yeah, I really don't think it's any different on the civilian side. I think it's just a little bit more in our face military, because we are constantly moving. We're meeting new command. We're going through different resources, all those different things. So like, it's kind of just more in our face all the time than it is.
Brush it under, like they're like, oh, they're new.
Yeah,
they know that information.
Yeah, I mean, and we do it. We all do it. Like I think we've had conversations about our medical stuff where, like, you know, we go in and we're like, you know, we know something's wrong and you're trying to advocate. But then, like, for me, like, I PCS and I'm having to start all over again.
I think the PCS is the hardest thing when it comes to medical, because it's like, oh yeah, well, my doctor was working on that, but we didn't have a diagnosis. And they're like, well, you don't have a diagnosis. We're going to start over from the beginning. And it's like, God, we can never get anywhere, because it takes 2 years to get through appointments and all these things. And like now I'm so glad that like I finally found a doctor who diagnosed what really is going on. And it's like, thank God, because now it's on my records. Because now when we move again, it's with me and I don't have to worry.
And I love how you're like, it's on my records. Listen, no matter how many times they say that they have transferred your records, I have none of my records.
I found that out. We need to just go get them. I always get them no matter what. I'm like, we have physical.
No, that's the thing though. A lot of offices will be like, oh, we can't give you physical copies. Like, you have to like do it. And I'm like, you again, be like, no, listen, like, I have been doing this for a long time. Like, please just give me a copy of my records.
Just say something. You can download it.
Yeah, well, thankfully nowadays they have, like, a lot of the medical apps have all of your stuff in the app, so you can go in and get a lot of my dermatology records, which is what I really needed for my upcoming dermatology, you know, all the things that I've had, the procedures and things like that, so that way I can give it to them. But, you know, I went into my doctor's office here for the first time on installation. He's like, so I got nothing on you. Like, I got a little summary from your last doctor. I saw that you've been doing this, and this, but it didn't give me many details. Can you give me the lowdown? And that was supposed to be like a full checkup. Didn't even have a full checkup, because we spent the entire time going through everything that I've been doing, all the testing and everything. Like, you know,
I would definitely say try to get your records, because I think, they'll tell you. They'll be like, no, be like, well, okay, well, I'm getting, just say something absurd. It's not like their information, and they'll be like, well, I'm getting a divorce and I won't be part of the military communications. Can I get my records to take to my new civilian doctor or something like that? Because they can print them for you. They know they can. They don't want to, because
it might not be print. It may be on a disc, which is fine, or a thumb drive or whatever. But yeah, you definitely can get them, because when we
move overseas, we didn't we didn't get to be on base doctors, because that's just not what it works for the civilian side. So we had to get our medical records physically with us, to bring them to the next person.
I mean, even stateside on post is like, yeah, you're too messed up here, go to a specialty doctor. Mm-hmm. Which sucks sometimes, because sometimes, even though I have the referral out and all that, and they send the stuff back to TRICARE is terrible about uploading that stuff into your record for your actual doctors to see. Thank goodness for those apps, so I can just pull them up and be like, see,
I don't think that's just.
I am that messed up.
And it's still definitely like all medical offices don't communicate as well as they should. You're like, you sent me for a referral. Why aren't they immediately sending that information back to you? Like, why am I?
And it's because they send it to TRICARE, not to the doctor, and TRICARE is supposed to upload it to the portal, and it doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, once again, you have to just advocate for yourself. If you feel like, even if you don't know what you have to advocate for, if you feel something's off, if you feel like something's not right, I get asked questions. I mean, I feel like it sucks that we have to do that. Like, it really does. That we have like medical, housing. Is this person treating my spouse correctly? You know, or like the thought process of, I don't really want to connect with military spouses because all I see is how horrible military spouses are. And I get it. Like, I see it every single day, guys. Like, I'm going through these pages. I'm even on a page where when you're tired of being a mil spouse, but you're a mil spouse, and it's just people sharing like the craziest things on here. And again, we come from all walks of life.
I was going to say, before we end the episode, I wanted to tell you my crazy story, because there are some stories that have nothing to do with advocating, have nothing to do, that will just happen to you. So when I was a baby milspo, my husband deployed right away after we'd gotten housing. And so we were in kind of ghetto apartments on base. That's just what it is when you're E1, right? And so we got in, and I was there sitting there by myself in the middle of the night, and I just hear boom, 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 boom on the door. And I was like, oh my God, like, what is happening? I have no idea. So I go and like peek through the door hole, and there's cops everywhere. I was like, oh my God, like, what is happening? Like, did I do something? Like, what is happening? So I opened the door, and there was like this immediate look on their face, and they were like, you're not who we're looking for. And I was like, yeah, you don't say. And it's such a crazy experience, because then they didn't even say sorry. They like
just walk away
at my door and turned around. And then I was like watching through the peephole the rest of the time. They like evacuated that building. They crossed, literally, they wandered across the hall, and they like brought the guy out and like all this crazy stuff. Apparently he was like selling drugs out of his apartment on base. Like, there's things where you're gonna be like, what is happening? Because we all think that military members are like these great outstanding leaders.
Not. Again, they're coming from all walks of life, and some of them are joining the military because that is their option to join the military. Well, and I guess I will say this, it depends on the time frame, because sometimes there's really strict rules to join the military, but then there's other times where it's like, okay, you can either join the military and get your acts together, or you will end up in jail at some point. And so we have all walks of life. I mean, I think recently we just had there was just a story of a soldier charged with sexual assault on a child. And, you know, we have that. I mean, again, we're a community. We're coming from all walks of life. We're going to have, unfortunately, those things are going to happen. The amount of police stories that I have, like Sabrina, are insane, guys. I also think it should come with, like, most military installations are in locations that are high volume of transit, which what that means is that you can come and go without being noticed. You can come and go and do activities that are not very good. Bragg, for instance, has a very high gang rate. There's a lot of people that have come to the area. I don't know if it's necessarily still the same now, but there was a time period where there were some major gangs from like the West Coast who were coming to the East Coast and causing a lot of problems. And they were there because, is it a large city? Not necessarily, but it's near large cities, and you can come and go without people going like, that's odd.
And it's so many of the bases. Like, like those police stories, again, like you're saying, I was at Fort Hood, and I would sit in the front little window. We weren't on base, we were out off base, but sit and like look out the window and watch shootings and stuff happening out the window. Like, I have trauma from Colleen, because it's like, oh my God.
I feel like Hood is just
you should have seen it when the B-52s were dropping bombs here the other day.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I had my next door neighbor at like 6 a.m. full SWAT, like SWAT, like broke the door down, swarmed the house, pulled the guy out in his underwear, and I'm just sitting there going like my coffee, because I got up because I heard the door, I heard the boom, and I was like, dang, that was a really close like boom for Bragg. Like, normally like it's boom boom, like there's booms, but this one was like explosion boom. I was like, what was that? So then I like go out my room and see all these like the lights, and I'm like, oh. So then I like made a cup of coffee, and I set up on the floor like in the window, and I was just like, and then of course like I felt bad, there was children involved and things like that, and there are going to be those people, and you're gonna have those experience. And it is a really crazy world. Like, I mean, we've had service members who've committed murders. We've had service members who've been murdered by their wives because of whatever the case may be. We've had sexual assaults. We've had things with children. Like, there are bad people. We talked about this in the podcast, like a long time ago. Like, Jeremy experienced like this really crazy, like Nordic, like religion guy in his unit that just went crazy and was chasing people around with a hatchet and stuff. Like, you are going to have craziness. I think it's just part of life. Like craziness comes with the military life. It's how you choose to deal with it. I think is going to make your journey better. You know, whether that means you're like, I'm not going to have anything to do with military spouses, which if you've listened to us or you're hearing this and you're just hearing a clip or whatever, we're huge advocates of at least having a small community within the military community. It will make a difference. Having tools, having a support system will make a difference. There's a Fort Bragg page where it's just like they literally just go in and bash people. And I'm like, why? Like, why? Like, why do we have to be mean girls? Or mean boys or whatever the case may be. Like, why do we have to be mean to make ourselves feel better when you can just be a kind human being and, you know, just keep scrolling. So I will never
we were talking about this Facebook group that we're all in, and there was a painting and someone, like, people can be proud of being an army wife. They can be proud of it. Like, let it be, because like, although it does kind of seem dependent as you get older and you've been in for a long time, but it's like, we all did it. I had things when I first got in for sure that I was so proud.
I 100% got sucked into an MLM, guys. Like, it happens. Like, obviously I'm going to be a huge advocate of like, don't do that. But, you know, sometimes you just get a person who's speaking to you the right way and you're just like, yes, I can finally like contribute to something or whatever the case may be. But yeah, like, again, don't make anyone feel bad about yourself or what you're doing to support your families and stuff.
Mm-hmm. We could go on and on with stories.
We could. I mean, we will probably try to bring these up, or if you guys have a crazy story that's happened to you on your journey, please let us know. You can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, wherever the case may be, on our Deployed Love pages. Because, I mean, I've been reading some of these and I'm like, there's no way. Like, how did this happen? Like, is this a true, or is this rage bait? Like, is this an actual story? Or are you just saying this to get like reactions? But, you know, we have, you know, there's so many pages, like the WTF Nation pages for all the military stuff.
I wish these pages surprised me anymore, but they don't.
Jeremy's
and that's how you know you've been around too long, is you're like, yep, that sounds like this base. And then you find out it was that base and you're like,
yeah. Oh, and it's so funny that you can nitpick, like, I bet this was that location. And you're like, maybe that's
sometimes you can even like pick out what unit you know it's
oh,
gonna
yeah.
be. Yeah.
I think at that point we should be scared that we are knowing like that much information about the military community and be like, is that our cue? That
I feel like that makes us old.
It does. And I mean, we are old, so we can't really say that. Like, I was talking to someone the other day and I called them a baby spouse. I was like, I know you're not a baby and I know you're not a child, but like, to me, let's just let me be your mama bear and let me just guide you on this journey so that way you don't feel like all these other people, because I hate that military spouses go through experiences like this and they don't feel like they can connect with military spouses or the military families, or that their journey is just going to have a poor taste in their mouth, because again, military life can be so great. It can be so rewarding. So we'll just leave it at that, guys. We'll leave it at that tonight or today for our little girl chat. And, you know, we'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And if you guys have tips and tricks on some things that we talked about today, I can share. But, you know, we're here to support you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure you're following us on all of our things, because we share videos across Instagram and TikTok. We share other things on our other platforms. So make sure you guys are there, and hopefully we will get to chat with you, because that's what we keep saying. We love that. If you want to join a girl chat, just you don't have to be like a leader in the community. You just want to come on and chat about these topics like this. Just shoot us a message and we'll get you on one of the next ones coming up too. So
yeah, we always want that perspective.
Yeah, we love the community. We love that you guys are here, and we will see you on the next one. So as we like to say, Ruck Up Buttercup.
Bye, guys.